And a news alert, some Waldo Canyon fire evacuees are back home tonight. Others were given a first look at what remains of their homes, and for some, sadly, it wasn't much. And right now, crews battling the fire in Colorado Springs are making progress. The fire is at 45% containment, but more lifted evacuation orders are a good sign of the progress firefighters have made. 7 News reporter Brian Webb is live in Colorado Springs tonight with the latest. And Brian, another good day for fire crews.
Yes, and a city official began this afternoon's briefing by calling it a great day, meaning firefighters continue to make great strides in their fight, and Mother Nature's helping out too. But as we look back behind me, there is still plenty of smoke coming from the mountains there, blanketing much of the city. You also see little dots everywhere. It's those helicopters making constant round trips to the fire lines, trying to beat back the blazes with air attacks. The total burn area still stands at around 17,600 some acres, with 1,500 plus personnel working around the clock to try to keep the fires from getting any bigger. And like you said, it was a big day for many residents. Those after a week of evacuation, those numbers are down to about 3,000 evacuees. That's about 10% of what we were earlier this week. Several people got to at least see their homes today, or what's left of them, and many more from neighborhoods like Oak Valley Ranch, Pinion Valley, and Peregrine will get to go home tonight, hopefully for good.
It was emotional. Emotional for those that didn't lose their homes, and emotional for those that did.
The city also wants us to remind everyone about the burn bans within the city limits. There will also be heavy restrictions for fireworks, and they announced that several tourist areas like Garden of the Gods and Pikes Peak Highway should be back open tomorrow. And so a lot of good news coming out of Colorado Springs today.
That is certainly exciting. All right, thank you, Brian. An amazing time-lapse video showing the blaze over the course of 5 days. You can see the growing amount of thick smoke and the glowing flames. And then on Tuesday, it explodes, flames lighting up the night sky as that fire moves into neighborhood homes. Another tragedy for the Woodland Park area. 2 adults and 2 teenage boys from the city were killed in a head-on collision in Wyoming. Police say a Boy Scout troop from Woodland Park was returning from a retreat earlier this morning when their vehicle crossed the highway, for some reason colliding with a motorhome. A toddler in the motorhome also died in the accident. And right now, some evacuees are back at home, but some 3,000 families still aren't allowed to sleep in their own beds. 7 News reporter Russell Haythorne spoke to some residents, and Russell, the majority of evacuees, they are returning home, thankfully.
And Ann, that's a huge relief after spending 5 nights as evacuees. This is the latest map of the mandatory evacuation zone. You can see the area shaded in red here is still under a mandatory evacuation order. This is now the infamous Mountain Shadows neighborhood. But these areas, the good news is these areas were all shaded in red earlier. They are now open, so that means people in Peregrine, Oak Valley Ranch, and Pinion Valley will be able to sleep at home tonight. A bittersweet homecoming, knowing some of their neighbors lost everything.
For the folks just back in their homes in the Peregrine neighborhood,
is that an ember?
Wicked evidence of just how close the fire came.
This is a shake roof here.
This is the shake. This is the fabric.
Had it not been for firefighting heroics, Mike Slattery says it could have been 10 times worse.
By the time they got to this mountainside, they had all their big guns in place, and I think it was their sort of a last stand.
Slattery had to let his horses go.
The choice was just to let them loose and let them use their instincts and run.
Unfortunately, not all were spared. Hike out to the point of this property and there's a view of neighborhood destruction and emergency vehicles on the streets.
Some are just sitting on the curbs, just shaking their head, don't know what's next.
Much more devastating than I would have imagined.
And you learn to go up and give them a hug and tell them we're there for you.
Many in Peregrine have often viewed the rock quarry as a scar on the mountain. Now it's a blessing, a breaking point for the fire.
Sadness.
Still, not all are feeling completely comfortable.
We're going to just stay packed this summer, and I pray we get some monsoon rains or just some rains.
So this is the area where we were located today at the tip of Hunters Point Lane, overlooking the Mountain Shadows neighborhood to the south, and Trevor Lane here, where all of these homes were destroyed by the fire. Those returning home tonight are receiving this letter from the sheriff's office, just warning them to be ready for immediate evacuations in the future. The sheriff's office is also warning those evacuees returning home to beware of wildlife in their homes, especially bears who are rummaging through refrigerators and freezers for rotten food. And one final note, those horses we mentioned a moment ago were eventually rounded up by the Sheriff's Department and they were brought down to safety. That's the very latest from Colorado Springs. I'm Russell Haythorne, and back to you.
All right, Russell, thank you. So crews battling the High Park fire in Lerner County, they have fully contained that fire. It charred more than 87,000 acres. The current cost to fight that fire, just over $38 million. 259 homes were destroyed by the flames there.